Tonight we're thrilled to be presenting Imaginary Worlds, which will be a surprising and wide-ranging exploration of the crossover between the language of architecture and the language of comics.
Probably the two art forms that have the most in common is architecture and comics. I think both of them are involved. Both of them rely on drawing, and they rely on drawing to imagine worlds and imagine the ways in which we live and the ways in which actions play out in space and personality and character.
Drawing is a kind of clarification process for me, so it's a research kind of and brainstorming process. So when I draw, I start, from a lot, and then the ideas emerge from it.
Like space and architecture has crept in and almost taken the place of like a traditional narrative, or made the space that narrative makes in comics its own. And the potential of a narrative in architecture that we see every day, that we create and that we draw, I think holds its own, almost like it holds its own narrative that's very akin to comics.
You're going to be drawing a jam comic with your neighbors. It takes place when one person draws the first panel of a comic, and instead of going forward and drawing the next panel of the comic, they actually pass that incomplete comic to a second person who draws the next panel of the comic. And then they pass that incomplete comic to a third person who draws the next panel of the comic. Basically what happens is you have a collaborative, improvisational comic at the end that couldn't have been created any other way, but really draws on the creative strengths of each of the artists who do it.
Once you take a character and put it in a space, which is architectural or natural, then you get personality and you get a setting and you get a sense of time and all these other things that are really important in terms of storytelling. So I think there's, that obvious connection for me.
The history of architecture is a history of drawings, not a history really of buildings in some ways. The drawing is the architect's medium, and so representation is where architectural thinking actually happens, and buildings are just one product of that.